Can I get a Wakan? Yay! Wakan? Yay! Wakan? Yay! Wakan? Yay!
Black SciFi TV celebrated the premiere of the Black Panther movie with a private screening at the AM South Philly Movie Theater. Black SciFi TV, along with the Black Tribbles and Ariell Johnson of Amalgam Comics Coffeehouse, did a special screening of the movie for blurs and nerds. It was a fun time had by all as celebrity guest Eric Battle, Christina Jackson, and Marc Lamont Hill joined in with Black SciFi TV in a sold-out house to see the movie. Everyone was excited.
You understand? When I say tribble, you say nation. Tribble! Tribble!
Folks dressed up in cosplay gear and African attire to attend the screening.
Oh, look at that, she's a model. My brother right here in the front. Stand up, give him a taste of that royalty. Look at him. Look at him. Straight Wakanday. What?
Some people came from out of town for the celebration, and one viewer even came as far as from Canada for the special screening.
We want to know why this dude came from Canada.
Why you come from Canada? Why did you come here to Wakanday to see Black Panther?
Because I couldn't think of a better place to come see it the first time.
That's right.
Now this is a city that's built on humanity of people. So this is where you come to watch Black Panther.
That's right.
Thank you for making all this happen.
The Black Panther movie was a very special movie for the Black community. Host Sean Aline asked celebrity guest and comic book illustrator Eric Battle what this movie meant personally to him.
So, you know, you're a renowned comic book artist. How significant is this film to you as an artist, seeing these images come to the screen?
It's very, very significant because you know, growing up when I was younger, you know, reading comics, and like the early editions of the Black Panther comic book that were drawn by Billy Graham. I don't know if you guys remember him, but you know, classic artist, you know, phenomenal artist on some of the early editions of the Black Panther comic book. You know, those were inspirations for me to become an illustrator, and having worked with some of the Black Panther writers like Christopher Priest and Reggie Hudlin, just again to see characters that have inspired you, and you know, seeing the creations of other creators on the screen, you know, it all just serves to like inspire me further.
Marc Lamont Hill shared his feelings as well.
Now, I see you wearing this sweater. It says writer, yeah. and we talked about the story. For you, what's the most significant thing you want to see in this story? Where do you want to see it go from here?
Well, I think for me, the idea of fantasy, the idea of the imagination, and writing Black people into existence in ways that aren't about slavery, that aren't about oppression. Although we need to talk about that stuff too, just not all the time, you know. That's not about some of the stereotypical images we see on TV. For me, as long as the story continues to play with Black imagination and the Black fantastic, I'm excited. I don't care where it goes, as long as it goes somewhere dope.
The Wakanday event was planned by BlackSci-Fi.com and Black SciFi TV founder and creator, Maurice Waters.
Just came in and y'all showed out. We want to give a shout out and introduce Maurice Waters, who is just, if you haven't heard of I Am Black Sci-Fi on Facebook, follow us. Black Sci-Fi on Twitter and Black Sci-Fi on Instagram. This is the guy, this is the founder behind it, making his way up.
I got to talk to you about Maurice Waters real quick. This man is, in all seriousness, he's one of the people I credit. This is the head of BlackSci-Fi.com right here, the Grand Poobah. This man was one of the first people that got me started on my path of being the artist I am and doing Afrofuturism.
All in all, it was an awesome day that capped off with a Vibranium Nights party and a panel discussion at Amalgam Comics and Coffeehouse.
Good evening.
we move into the Vibranium Nights portion of our program. My name is Vincent Williams. I'm the host of a podcast called the MICHEAUX Mission. Get somebody here to loan me some money. And tonight we are going to talk about Black Panther. So structurally, I'd rather we all just sort of talk. So I, kind of throw some things out, and then y'all kind of build, chop it up, and then, I'll get in where I fit in. And I thought the best place to start, because I think pretty much we all love the movie. But Ariel, is something that you and I were just talking about, and Christina, you actually just said the same thing, and I've heard it before. I think there's an emotional reaction that many of us have to it, and crying. And can you just talk about that? Like, what is it about this film, besides how good it is, that, really just made you that emotional?
Just the symbolism of it, to see this black nation that has agency over itself, this black nation that didn't have their history interrupted. For us here, and even continental Africans, history was interrupted because of the colonizer. as Shuri so eloquently put it, and so that's again, this is Marvel, so vibranium is not a thing. So not to say it would have necessarily looked like it looked in Wakanda, but we were stunted, and we are still recovering from that, both in the diaspora and on the continent, and you could feel that in the movie, and that's, I think I was like mourning, but also celebrating, because we're still here, we're still vibrant people, we are, we set the stage for the world. It's like everybody copies what we do, and that's something. So I think that speaks to like just who we are deep down, and just all of that was happening in that movie for me, and it was just like overwhelming.
Yeah. A lot of that same thing. I'm not a sci-fi geek. I never read a comic book growing up. I'm just starting to learn about this whole world, largely because of you and the work that you do and what you brought to Philadelphia. And so I didn't come in knowing anything. And for the last 8 months, I've been like, oh God, if I hear about Black Panther, I'm like, people buying tickets for a movie? Like, it's hard to get black people to buy tickets for a movie 2 hours before the movie show. Right. It was like Thanksgiving, people buying tickets for the movie. And I got caught up in that. I'm like, if this many black people love it, I want to be a part of it because it's us, Right. And I don't care what it is. If black people are engaged in producing black joy, I want to be a part of it. So the first thing that brought me to the theater was that. Then when I got to the theater, I wasn't ready for all of the pageantry that I saw. Between Instagram and Facebook, and then actually showing up today, Negroes had staffs.
Y'all don't know how to act. Y'all don't know how to act.
Yo, we show out, but that's a whole other thing, right? So I was excited to watch a movie with us. When it was our weekend, it was our movie, and I understand all the people who say, well, y'all didn't own it and all that stuff. I mean, I get that. Black folk ain't stupid. We understand how Hollywood works. But this was for us in a certain kind of way. My reaction to the movie, though, I looked at it, I have a production company, we make films and TV shows and series, 1930 Productions. So one of with Stacey Muhammad, shout out to Stacey Muhammad, and one of the things I think about is how a movie is shot. The first thing I thought of was, how is this shot? What does black skin look like on camera? Because not everybody can shoot black skin.
That's right.
When you look at, the way they shot us, black skin is always beautiful, but what it looked like on that screen today made my heart warm. Because you see movies where the makeup is wrong, where the lighting is wrong. All of it was perfect. In many ways, and this is the last thing I'll say, this was the blackest movie I've ever seen. I've been to movies where the whole cast is black.
Right.
That ain't what I'm talking about. Just like you could go to all-black school and the curriculum is white. Right. And here, the way we thought about stuff, Ariel hit a lot of it on the head, right? To begin with the counterfactual question of what would it mean for us to exist outside of white interruption, outside of colonialism, without interference, that's a powerful question. but the response was magnificent.
Yes.
It's like my brother said, black genius. That's what, oh, and like my sister said, that's what you see, black genius, right? The idea that black folk can defend themselves, protect themselves, have their own agenda, and to remind us of the pre-colonial question, right? We don't want to be the cowboys of the world. We don't want to war with the world. We don't want to destroy our world. We don't want to be inhospitable to guests. We not them. And to have a whole film that's looking at the world through our eyes, when my man gets recovered, he's like, bullet wounds gonna heal in a day, and she like they do here. Get your mind right, right? And it ain't magic. Right, this is how I fixed you. Right. And for an African woman to be the smartest person in the room, in the building, in the whole country, and to see a colonizer, to see a CIA agent, to see someone who has destroyed so much of us, and in the midst of all of that, they could have left him there to die. And she did the opposite. She said, he said, I can't leave him here to die, because we different. They don't know who they had on them ships. This movie is a reminder of who we were before we got on them ships. So for me, I just watched the whole thing excited, inspired, overjoyed by everything.
Yeah, a lot of what Ariell said, a lot of what Marc said. For me, in particular, again, I don't know anything about comic books. I didn't know anything until I came into Ariell's shop when she gave me the invite, and she was like, you know, what do you want to buy? And I said, anything black. Let's start there. Let's start there. But for me, Black Panther, to have a synopsis of what this movie is, and to see the casting, that's what started for me. To see this casting, they had every heavy hitter that they could, and then the new talent that comes in. And then you get to see bits and pieces of these shots, and you get to see what Wakanda is actually realized. And you see how beautiful it is. Because for so long, we've only seen the destitute and you know, starving shots of Africa. And then to actually see this movie, and to see how developed the characters are. Because for me as an actress, I'm usually the only black person on set. And so to see an entire cast of black people that come together, and to see all of these characters fully developed and recognized, to see the dynamics, to see the women actually be the ones. And we all know the strength of a woman because you all got here by one. But it's like, to see the strength of women and to even see the dynamics between them, where it's like, well, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I'm going to serve my country. And it's like, what are you gonna do? I'm gonna save it. That's what I'm gonna do. To see all of that, and just to see my favorite part is when you get to Eric Killmonger. And the entire time I've been hearing Michael B. Jordan is just gonna be this villain, you've never seen anything like him. And then to see the movie and to feel exactly the way that he feels, because we know exactly what that is. And then you even see the dynamics between him and T'Challa, where it's like, well, we can't help, because what we have here, if we expose ourselves to the world, they'll take it from us. And it's like, even that fear, when you have everything, as black people, like we do, we have everything, and they still take it away from us. And to have that fear, and then just to do it full circle, and to see this movie, and to see the way that it ends, and it's like, I bought that building, and I bought that building, and you're gonna teach them about science, and they're gonna do outreach. It's like, how many times have I wished that we could come together and do that because the tickets for this movie far surpass any other Marvel movie in pre-sale history ever. It's the black one that did that. We did that. We did that for our own. And so it's like, to see this movie and to just be immersed, and even the vibrations inside the theater, I know y'all had to feel it. There's so much joy and love and just overall amazingness to just sit around and be like, we in here for us, y'all. Like, I can't wait. Like, all of the cultural references that they didn't beat us over the head. It's just like, I literally left the theater both times just on a high. Because I will be honest, I've never felt that connection to Africa. I've never felt it. I've had African influences and friends and all of that stuff, and it's like, it's cute to wear the dashiki to me, but it's like, I've never had that, and so for me, that was the next level for me, where it's like going into this movie theater and seeing an African nation fully realized, and to see the potential that we would have if it wasn't interference. That was the biggest part for me. And then it's like, literally your mind going to be like, well, what about this? And well, what about that? And what if we could do this here? Just the inspiration behind it all, that's the biggest part for me. And so I'm going again to go see it in 3D.
For me, what struck me with the movie is like going to see the movie initially, you know, I was just excited to see the character that was, you know, that I had respect for, and, you know, I had respect for the creator, you know, like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, for creating the character, but seeing the character so fully realized on the screen. They didn't pump him, you know, like you know, black characters have been treated in other movies, but you know, the character was treated with respect. But what stood out throughout the movie to me the most was it was about relationships, and the relationships between family, whether you know T'Chaka and you know the ancestors, how he addressed the ancestors. You know, he revered them, but he called them on their shortcomings. The relationships between siblings and family. You know, his relationship with his cousin, who he didn't know, and you know, even though there was animosity there was still love. You know, even though Killmonger felt that he was done wrong by this family that he didn't grow up knowing, the connection between the continent and the disconnection that he felt because he felt abandoned. But the scene that I really loved the most was the confrontation between the two lovers towards the end with Denai Guerrero's character and Daniel.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
Kaluuya, yeah, their character is like when they had to confront each other, and he realized that he was wrong, and he showed deference to his woman. You know, that he bowed, and you know, he threw his weapon down. And it's just like, I mean, that just really struck me. So the movie, it just showing the relationships that we have and that we can have with one another was, again, it was just mind-blowing stuff. So.
Well, I don't cry at movies, but if I did, I really feel like there's the part where Killmonger says, you know, my dad always told me he was dying, you know, that there was a beautiful sunset, and T'Challa, you know, they raised up and they saw the sunset while he lay there. And also when he talked about dying, I think that's where I got choked up in the movie. But overall, for me, I'm a hardcore comic book collector, always have been since I was a kid. Blurred, bleak, whatever you want to call me, that's me. So for me, and I'm sure with all of you here that know the story, it was also like, I told you, this was a rich character, this was a rich story, and he was beyond just a superhero, which is what I loved about this film. And this is, regardless of superhero or not, this is a master film. Okay, and when they talk about Wonder Woman being honored, you know, nominated for an Oscar, I think this should be nominated for an Oscar as well. I mean, there's so many roles in here. It broke the mold, and it's going to set the standard for other movies coming after. I really love the scene as a director, what he did when Killmonger came to power, and the world turned upside down. Yeah. Everything's different now, you know. And I was like, whoa, this is deep. This guy, you know, these people took time. I love the fact that yes, there was all this thing. You know, sometimes as a comic book collector and having a lack of black heroes, you want to see power all the time. But T'Challa as a character is a thinking man. And it's how he wields that power and what he does with it. And that was, I think, was important as an important example to see. Also for me, the whole relationship between African American and Africa, I think we all can identify with that. And to be honest, I think we all are hurt in some way. You know, I took a class that I'm a Temple student too, Temple alumni. And I took a class on black psychology, and the professor made a great point and said, you know, after slavery, no one got help. You know, we need therapy. And that, you know, those stresses, those things get passed on, and you know, you act it out some way or not. And you know, and on one hand, you're like, Killmonger's crazy, but on the other hand, when he starts talking about, like, wait a minute, now some of that does make sense. Right. So is he a villain or isn't he a villain? You know, what's going on here? You know, so it was a master film. I was blown away. I'm going to see it a couple more times. I'll buy the DVD where I get to serve, telling other people, you know, whatever I can do to support this, regardless of Marvel. And just one other point that I want to bring up about that, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to do Wakanday and did do it, was because, yes, Marvel is capitalizing and Disney's capitalizing, but it's our community. We control this. You know, and it needs to turn around at least more than one time in our community. That's what we're doing today. And after this movie, let's keep it turning again. The books are here, the activities are here. Uncle Bobby's, she's doing films, he's doing work. Let's keep it moving.
I wanted to circle back because Mark, I thought you said something that I've been thinking about, and that's talking about black joy. And I think one of the more fascinating things, fascinating in like a way, is the pushback against Black Panther. Whether you're talking about the fake Twitter accounts saying that people have been attacked, or even just this generalized negativity. And I think that that's a response to black joy. And so I wanted you to kind of unpack that a little bit, because I think that's really important.
I think it's a couple of things. I think that since slavery, there's a fear about black mobility. Black mobility scares white supremacy, right? Black mobility, they literally made psychological disorders for slaves who ran away. They said that, dropping tomatoes are the fear of an obsession with fleeing, right? So if slaves ran away, they said, he got mental illness. If it's crazy to want to leave a plantation, right? But there was a fear around black mobility. That's why they get mad when black people get passport. That's why they want us traveling. That's why they don't want us be able to move from job to job. They don't want black to be mobile in any way. They don't like NBA players. We'll learn how to swim with black people. Seriously, what happens? Even athletes that try to pick the team they want to go on. We can pick what team you go on, but LeBron, if you decide to go to Miami, or you decide to go to Cleveland, we don't want no mobility, right? We just don't like black people mobile because they can escape. So part of what escape is about is not just the physical body, it's also the spirit and the mind. So part of what happens is part of what fantasy allows for, part of what sci-fi allows for, part of what the creative spirit allows for is other forms of escape. And so they don't want that. They don't want us to dream about new possibilities. They don't want you to dream about Wakanda. Next thing you know, you're going to try to make one here. Right? God forbid you try it, right? So part of what this is about just a containment of the black creative capacity and the black creative imagination and the black spirit in any form it comes in, physical, spiritual, emotional, whatever you want, right? Some of it is a curiosity. Black people, because so much of our story is one of trauma, and in response to trauma, we talk about how resilient kids are, right? We celebrate them for being able to withstand trauma. That we only look at our experience through the lens of trauma, as opposed to a lens of happiness and joy and love. When that's always been what we did. We were on plantations. We found joy on plantations. Not from the plantation, but in spite of it. We found joy in spite of our circumstances, and we turned our pain into power through expressions of joy and creativity and love. And so this is no different than that. So so part of what you get is the hater who says, y'all don't have a sophisticated analysis, y'all don't know that y'all don't own this movie, we never own nothing. If we waited to own shit to have joy in America, if we waited for white supremacy to take a day off to have joy, we would never have no joy. Right? The whole point is they try to steal our joy and we always push back. So in some ways that's what this is about. And some of it is trying to dismantle black joy. So that's when you see the fake Twitter accounts. That's when you see people lying. That's when you see people saying there's going to be fights and this and that at the movie theater. White folk manage to come to movies all the time without killing each other. White folk manage to have escape and dress up and wear stuff and do stuff without any problems. So do black people. And this is just another example of that, but people are always trying to undercut that because they don't want us organized, they don't want us happy, they don't want us to win. And so it's important for us to celebrate this moment, a moment where we came together around something that wasn't about slavery, that wasn't about oppression, that wasn't when somebody got shot in the streets. And we can keep replicating it. To my brother's point, we keep replicating that. And the last thing I was going to say real fast is, I just want to underscore your point. We want to replicate this not just when Marvel has something, not just when a big major studio has something, but support Black Star Film Festival. That's right. Support independent filmmakers that are making wonderful projects that may never get to a stage like this because we don't support it. So let's support it every single day.
I think that's the true practice of the content and what exactly the point we're trying to make. And I also feel like I think we live in this sci-fi world in our mind as a survival skill. I think because we're inundated with these TV shows and things where we always are watching other people have victory. And then we have to watch it through and say, that's them. You know, and so I find myself a lot of times, like, you know, I used to watch House Hunters all the time. And and for a while I didn't have money. And I said, you know, I can't keep watching this. I can't keep house all the time. Right, this ain't fun. I want that house. You know, so I think a lot of that, you know, we live in the sci-fi world in that way, and I also think our community is a very spiritual community. I think we're so spiritual that we take it for granted, and I think that we don't call it what it is. When you know, my mother was the person that got me into sci-fi. As a young guy, we only had one TV in the house. She controlled the TV, so she watched Doctor Who. She watched Star Trek. Mutual Omaha. So that's what got me into it. But if I go to her and say, "Oh, you a Trekkie?" No, call me. I'm not one of those. So you know, it's what we call ourselves and how we deal with it and rectify, you know, justify it in our minds.
Thank you so much for everybody for coming out. I so appreciate it.